I thought God would protect me inside that church. I was wrong. My stepfather stood under the cross and slapped me in front of everyone, and when I reached for my phone, my deacon stepbrother grabbed it first. He knew the secrets I'd been recording, and that's when everything changed. The holy sanctuary became my battlefield, where prayers turned to whispers of corruption, and family became the enemy I never saw coming. This is how I brought down an empire built on lies, one recorded confession at a time. My name is Madeline Harris, but everyone calls me Maddie. At 28, I've learned that some prisons don't have bars. They have stained glass windows and Sunday sermons. It's been 3 years since Mom died, and Dad remarried Pastor William Harrow. 3 years since our modest life in suburban Millhaven transformed into something I barely recognized. Dad said he found comfort in faith after losing Mom. But I think he found something else entirely. A new identity as the husband of the city's most influential religious leader. Pastor William Harrow isn't just any minister. He runs Millhaven Baptist Church, a congregation of over 3,000 members, where CEOs sit next to teachers, where politicians shake hands with mechanics, and where everyone believes they're part of something holy. The church isn't just a building here, it's the beating heart of our community. And William? He's the surgeon controlling every pulse. From the outside, we're the perfect family portrait. William stands tall at the pulpit in his pressed suits, voice booming with righteous authority. My stepmother Joanna coordinates every charity drive with military precision, her pearl necklace catching the light as she greets each parishioner by name. And then there's Ethan, William's son, the golden boy who became our church's youngest deacon at 25, with his father's sharp jaw and his mother's calculating eyes. Ethan moves through the congregation like he's already inherited the kingdom. But I see what others don't. I see how William's charity announcements never quite match the collection totals. I notice how Joanna's smile never reaches her eyes when she looks at me. I watch Ethan count the offering plates twice, 3 times, his fingers moving like a dealer shuffling cards in Vegas. My office at Everton Energy Solutions became my refuge. Numbers don't lie like people do. Spreadsheets don't pretend to love you while plotting your exclusion. As a financial analyst, I've learned to spot patterns, irregularities, the small discrepancies that reveal larger truths. Maybe that's why I started noticing things at home that others missed. Sunday dinners at the Harrow House are performances worthy of Broadway. William sits at the head of our mahogany table, leading grace while Ethan sits at his right hand, the heir apparent. Joanna serves her famous pot roast while discussing the youth ministry's latest success. And me? I'm the audience, expected to applaud, but never participate. The Robertson family pledged another $10,000 to the building fund, William announced one evening, cutting into his meat with surgical precision. God provides for those who serve him faithfully. Ethan's new BMW M5 sat in the driveway, a gift from a grateful parishioner, they said. His Rolex caught the chandelier light every time he reached for his wine. Meanwhile, when I needed new tires for my 8-year-old Honda, William suggested I practice better stewardship. The control started subtle. Maddie, that skirt might give the wrong impression at service, then escalated. Your friend Sarah seems worldly. Perhaps you should reconsider that friendship. Until every aspect of my life required their approval. What I wore, where I went, who I dated, everything filtered through their moral microscope. But 2 months ago, something shifted. I was working late, analyzing quarterly reports, when I noticed a familiar pattern in some shell company transactions. The same pattern I'd seen in the church's public financial statements. My heart raced as I connected dots that formed an ugly picture. That night, I started recording. My phone became my weapon, hidden in my pocket during William's closed-door meetings with Ethan in his study. Their voices, muffled but clear enough, discussed moving funds, offshore accounts, and keeping the board ignorant. They spoke in code, but finance was my language, and I understood every damning word. The first real sign of trouble came when I started dating Marcus, a software developer I'd met at a coffee shop downtown. He was everything the Harrows weren't: genuine, unpretentious, and completely unimpressed by Millhaven's religious hierarchy. Your stepbrother called my office today. Marcus told me over dinner one evening, his expression troubled. Said he was concerned about my intentions with you. I nearly choked on my wine. Ethan called your work? Not just called. He showed up, with 2 other deacons. They suggested I might want to reconsider my pursuit if I valued my reputation in this town. That night, I confronted Ethan in the church parking lot after youth service. He was loading boxes of donated clothes into his BMW, designer labels. I noticed that would never reach the needy. Stay away from Marcus, I warned, my voice shaking with rage. Ethan smiled, that practiced pastoral smile he'd perfected. Sister Maddie, we're just looking out for your spiritual well-being. Marcus isn't even a member of our congregation. What would people think? I don't care what people think. But you should care what God thinks. He slammed the trunk. And in this family, Father speaks for God. The surveillance increased after that. Joanna started accidentally opening my mail. William insisted on having Find My iPhone activated for safety. Ethan began showing up wherever I went. The gym, the grocery store, even my office building. Funny running into you here, he'd say, though we both knew it wasn't funny or accidental. I started recording everything. William's Tuesday night elder meetings that only included him, Ethan, and their accountant. The hushed phone calls about redirecting funds for kingdom purposes. The way collection money went into one safe but came out of another. One recording captured William clearly. The Haiti Mission Fund has enough. Route 30% through the Prosperity Foundation instead. God wants us to be wise stewards, and that includes securing our family's future. The Prosperity Foundation. I'd researched it, a shell company registered in Delaware, with Ethan listed as the sole board member. My evidence folder grew. Screenshots of church financial reports that didn't add up. Photos of Ethan withdrawing cash from the church ATM at midnight. Recordings of them discussing how to handle concerned members who asked too many questions. Mrs. Peterson wanted to see the full audit, Ethan said in one recording. I told her that would show a lack of faith in church leadership. Good, William replied. Doubt is the enemy of devotion. The breaking point came when I discovered they'd opened a credit card in my name, using my social security number from family documents. $23,000 in debt for purchases I'd never made, purchases that coincidentally matched items in Ethan's apartment. When I confronted William privately, he didn't deny it. Consider it your contribution to the ministry, he said calmly, polishing his reading glasses. After all, we've housed and fed you for 3 years. Gratitude, Maddie, is a Christian virtue. This is fraud. It's illegal. Prove it. He put on his glasses and looked at me over them. Who do you think the police chief listens to on Sunday mornings? Whose donations keep the mayor's campaign running? You're a grieving daughter who resents her father's new family. That's the story everyone will believe. But he'd miscalculated. Every threat, every admission of control. I'd recorded it all. My phone held 3 months of evidence, meticulously organized and backed up to a cloud account they didn't know existed. The Sunday it all came crashing down started like any other. Ethan led worship while William prepared his sermon on honoring thy father and mother. I sat in the 3rd row, my phone in my pocket, recording as always. During offering time, I watched Ethan collect the plates, his fingers skimming bills with practiced ease. Some went into his suit pocket, not many, just enough. I'd seen him do it dozens of times, had it on video from multiple angles. That's when I decided, after service, I would confront them publicly. The congregation deserved to know where their tithes really went. The orphanage in Haiti that hadn't received funds in 6 months deserved justice. I didn't know that William had been watching me too, that he'd noticed my phone, my careful documentation, my growing defiance. The confrontation would come sooner than I planned, and it would be more violent than I ever imagined. The evening service that Sunday was packed. The sanctuary glowed under warm lights, filled with families in their finest clothes. William had just finished a particularly fiery sermon about wolves among the flock when I stood up during the closing prayer. I have something to say, I announced, my voice cutting through the hushed amens. 300 heads turned. William's face shifted from confusion to alarm as I walked toward the pulpit, my phone in hand. "Sit down, Madeline," he commanded into the microphone, his pastor's voice booming with authority. "The congregation deserves to know where their tithes are going," I continued, holding up my phone. "I have recordings." The slap came without warning. William's hand connected with my face so hard that I stumbled backward, nearly falling into the first row of pews. The crack echoed through the sanctuary like thunder. Gasps rippled through the congregation, followed by stunned silence. My cheek burned, tears springing involuntarily to my eyes, but I kept my phone raised. 3 months of evidence, I managed, tasting blood where my teeth had cut my cheek. Proof that donations meant for Haiti are funding Ethan's lifestyle. That's when Ethan moved. He didn't run. He strode down the aisle with purposeful authority, his deacon's badge catching the light. Before I could react, he grabbed my wrist, twisting it until my phone fell. His other hand snatched it midair with practiced ease. "My sister is having an episode," Ethan announced calmly to the congregation, though his grip on my wrist was crushing. The grief of losing her mother, the stress of adjustment, it's been building. "That's not true." I pulled against him, but he held firm. "Check his accounts. Check the Prosperity Foundation." William had recovered his composure, adjusting his tie as if nothing had happened. "Let us pray for Madeline," he said into the microphone, "that God might heal her troubled spirit and cast out the demons of false witness." The congregation bowed their heads obediently, though I saw several people recording with their phones. Mrs. Rodriguez in the 5th row looked horrified. Deacon James kept his eyes open, watching everything. Ethan dragged me toward the side exit, whispering in my ear, "You think you're smart with your recordings? I've been monitoring your phone for weeks. I know every file, every backup, every password." My blood ran cold. The cloud account. I'd accessed it from my phone. If he had my passwords. "Deleted," he confirmed, reading my expression. "All of it. Your phone's been wiped remotely while we've been standing here. No evidence, no proof, just the word of a hysterical woman against 2 pillars of the community." Joanna appeared at the exit, holding my coat and purse. "You're leaving," she said quietly. "Tonight, we've packed your things." "This is my father's house, too." "Your father agrees this is best," William's voice came from behind. He'd left the pulpit, letting the associate pastor take over. "You've embarrassed our family enough. Madeline, mental illness is nothing to be ashamed of, but we cannot allow you to damage God's work." "Mental illness?" I laughed bitterly. "You're stealing from your own church." "Prove it," Ethan said, holding up my phone before pocketing it. "Oh, wait, you can't." But they'd made a crucial mistake. In their arrogance, they'd forgotten that I wasn't just some grieving daughter. I was a financial analyst who'd spent 3 years at Everton Energy Solutions, learning from the best forensic accountants in the business. "You think I kept everything on one phone?" I met Ethan's eyes. "You think I'm that stupid?" His smile faltered slightly. "The beautiful thing about financial crimes," I continued, loud enough for the lingering congregation members to hear, "is that they always leave a paper trail, and the FBI is very interested in churches that funnel donations through shell companies." William grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in. "You wouldn't dare." "I already have," I pulled free, addressing the people still watching. "Ask yourselves why the Haiti orphanage hasn't sent thank you videos in 6 months. Ask why the building fund never seems to build anything. Ask where your tithes really go." Security arrived then. 2 off-duty cops who attended the church, but several congregation members had filmed William striking me, and even more had heard my accusations. The seeds of doubt were planted. As they escorted me out, I passed Marcus in the parking lot. He was leaning against his car with someone I didn't recognize, a woman in a sharp suit, holding a digital recorder. "Maddie, this is Jordan Blake," Marcus said quietly. "She's a federal prosecutor specializing in nonprofit fraud. She's very interested in what just happened in there." Jordan extended her hand. "Miss Harris, I believe we should talk." The news spread through Millhaven like wildfire. By Monday morning, 3 different versions of Sunday's confrontation were circulating. The Harrow's version painted me as a mentally unstable woman who'd attacked her family during worship. The congregation's whispered version focused on the slap, the accusations, the way Ethan had seized my phone. The third version, spreading through social media, showed shaky phone footage of William striking me under the cross. But the damage to my life was immediate and brutal. I arrived at Everton Energy Solutions to find my keycard deactivated. My supervisor, Tom Morrison, met me in the lobby, his face apologetic but firm. "Maddie, I'm sorry, but we've received some concerning calls about your situation." "Let me guess," I said flatly. "Pastor William Harrow called to express his concerns about my mental stability?" Tom shifted uncomfortably. "He is on the board of several major clients. He suggested you might be a security risk, mentioned you've been making false accusations, possibly experiencing paranoid delusions." "Tom, I've worked here for 3 years. You know me." "I do, which is why I'm giving you 2 weeks paid leave instead of immediate termination. Get this sorted out. Maddie, come back with proof that you're stable." Stable, as if fighting corruption made me unstable. My phone buzzed with texts throughout the day, friends apologizing before uninviting me from gatherings, fellow choir members suggesting I take some time away from church activities. Even my hairdresser canceling my appointment. The Harrow's influence stretched into every corner of my life. Marcus stood by me, but even he faced consequences. His company suddenly lost 2 major contracts with businesses owned by church members. His landlord, a deacon, gave him 30 days' notice to vacate. "They're trying to isolate you," Jordan Blake explained when we met at a discreet location outside town. "It's classic intimidation tactics, but it also shows they're scared." "Scared?" I laughed bitterly. "They've destroyed my reputation. Ethan has my phone with all my evidence." "Not all of it," Jordan said, pulling out a tablet. "Marcus told me you're smart, so I'm betting you have redundancies they don't know about." She was right. Before confronting them, I'd mailed a flash drive to my cousin in California. I'd uploaded files to an encrypted server at work under a project code only I knew. I'd even hidden a backup phone in my car's spare tire compartment, still recording during that final Sunday service. "It's not enough for a conviction," I admitted, showing Jordan what I had. Financial records, some recordings, but without the main files from my phone. "We don't need a conviction yet," Jordan interrupted. "We need probable cause for a warrant, and that video of William assaulting you, combined with the financial discrepancies you've documented, is enough to start a federal investigation." But the Harrows weren't sitting idle. Wednesday afternoon. Ethan appeared at Marcus's apartment with 2 church elders and a document. "A restraining order?" Marcus called me, incredulous. "They're claiming you've been harassing them, that you're dangerous." The document was professionally crafted, painting me as an escalating threat. They'd included photos of me stalking Ethan, actually me documenting his midnight ATM withdrawals. They'd submitted my threatening texts asking for my phone back. They'd even gotten 3 church members to sign affidavits about my erratic behavior. "The hearing is Friday," Marcus read. "If this goes through, you can't go within 500 feet of them, the church, or any church property," which meant I couldn't gather more evidence, couldn't contact witnesses, couldn't fight back. Thursday night, alone in my temporary motel room, I got an unexpected call. Mrs. Rodriguez, the woman from the 5th row who'd witnessed everything. "I can't stand by anymore," she said quietly. "My husband would be furious, but I've been keeping records too, not of finances, but of people who've asked questions and suddenly left the church, families who challenged the leadership and found their lives destroyed. You're not the first. Maddie." "How many?" 17 in the past 5 years. I have names, dates, patterns, and Maddie, I have something else. Last month, I was cleaning the church office and saw Ethan accessing something called Operation Prosperity on his computer. I took a photo with my phone. It might help. Hope flickered for the first time since Sunday. The Harrows had built their empire on fear and intimidation. But empires built on lies always have cracks, and Mrs. Rodriguez had just shown me where to apply pressure. "Send everything to Jordan Blake," I told her. "And Mrs. Rodriguez? Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," she replied. "Tomorrow's restraining order hearing. William's brother is the judge. Friday's restraining order hearing was a circus, but not the kind the Harrows expected. Judge Samuel Harrow, William's brother, had to recuse himself when Jordan Blake walked in with a federal oversight attorney. The backup judge, brought in from the next county, was decidedly less sympathetic to the pastoral the family's claims. "Your Honor," Jordan argued, "this restraining order is clearly an attempt to obstruct a federal investigation into financial fraud. My client is a whistleblower, not a stalker." The judge reviewed the evidence, including the video of William striking me. "Request denied. And Mr. Harrow, consider yourself lucky I'm not issuing a restraining order against you." That victory gave me breathing room, but I needed my phone back. The real evidence, months of recordings, financial documents, correspondence, was on that device. Even if Ethan had deleted the cloud backups, the physical phone might still have recoverable data. "He'll have it in the church safe," I told Jordan and Marcus as we strategized. "His office has a Mosler double lock system. I know because I heard him bragging about it to the youth group, calling it impenetrable as heaven's gates." "We can't break in," Jordan said firmly. "Everything has to be legal." "We don't need to break in," I said, remembering something. "There's a church board meeting next Thursday. Financial review. Both William and Ethan have to attend. The office will be empty for at least 2 hours." "Still breaking and entering," Jordan pointed out. "Not if I have a key," I smiled. "And as it happens, I still have my choir room key, which is on the same master system. William never thought to revoke my access because he never thought I'd come back." Marcus shook his head. "It's too dangerous." "The server room is in the basement," I continued. "It auto-backs up all devices connected to the church Wi-Fi, even if Ethan wiped my phone. If it ever connected to their network, there might be cached data on those servers." Jordan leaned forward. "We'd need a warrant for that." "Or," I said, "we'd need probable cause so compelling that a judge would issue an emergency warrant, like evidence of an imminent crime." I spent the next 3 days analyzing the Operation Prosperity photo Mrs. Rodriguez had sent. It showed a spreadsheet with wire transfer schedules, including one marked for the following Friday, a $4.8 million transfer from the church's Haiti fund to an offshore account in the Caymans. "That's it," Jordan said excitedly. "That's wire fraud across international borders. That's FBI territory." But we needed more than a photo. We needed corroborating evidence from the source. Thursday night arrived cloudy and moonless. Perfect cover. The board meeting started at 7. By 7:15, I was in the church through the choir room entrance, my heart pounding as I moved through familiar hallways that now felt hostile. Ethan's office was exactly as I'd remembered, ostentatious and organized to the point of obsession. The safe sat behind his desk, but I wasn't there for that. I was there for his computer. The password was almost insultingly easy. Proverbs 21:6, the same verse reference he used for everything. The screen came alive, and there it was. Operation Prosperity, open in a minimized window like he'd been working on it minutes before the meeting. I plugged in my flash drive and started copying everything: wire transfers, offshore accounts, shell companies layered upon shell companies. But the real goldmine was an email folder labeled Insurance. Ethan had been keeping records on his father. Every questionable decision, every illegal transfer, every bit of evidence that could shift blame entirely onto William if things went south. The student planned to overthrow the master. "Smart boy," I muttered, copying faster. But not smart enough. A sound in the hallway froze my blood. Footsteps. The board meeting should have lasted another hour. I yanked the flash drive out, shut down the computer, and dove behind the office couch just as the door opened. "Told you I forgot my presentation notes." Ethan's voice, he was with someone. "Make it quick," William replied. The board's getting restless about these Haiti questions. My phone, Ethan's stolen phone, was in his desk drawer. I could see it from my hiding spot, practically calling to me, but I couldn't move without being seen. "Found them," Ethan said, grabbing papers from his desk. Then he paused. "Actually, Dad, there's something we should discuss about Maddie." "What about her?" "She's not going to stop. Maybe we should consider a more permanent solution." My blood ran cold. "Nothing illegal," William said quickly, "but perhaps Dr. Brennan at the psychiatric facility. He owes us from that tax issue we helped him with. A 72-hour hold for evaluation could become much longer with the right diagnosis." "I'll make the call tomorrow," Ethan agreed. They left, and I stayed frozen for another 10 minutes before emerging. I grabbed my phone from the drawer, still intact, though factory reset, and fled. Outside, Jordan was waiting in her car with 2 FBI agents. "Did you get it?" she asked. I held up the flash drive. Everything, including conspiracy to commit false imprisonment. "That's enough for a warrant," one agent said. "We move tomorrow." Friday morning came with the kind of dramatic flair that would have made William proud, had he not been on the receiving end. The FBI strike was coordinated across 3 locations simultaneously: the church, William's home, and Ethan's luxury apartment. But Ethan had been tipped off. Someone in the congregation, someone with connections, had made a warning call at dawn. By the time agents reached his apartment, he was gone, along with 2 suitcases and, according to his neighbor, a lot of cash in duffel bags. William wasn't so lucky. Agents found him in his study, calmly sipping coffee as if he'd been expecting them. "This is religious persecution," he told the media as they led him out in handcuffs, cameras rolling. "I'm being targeted for my faith." The story exploded across local news. Millhaven pastor arrested in federal fraud probe. The footage of William in handcuffs ran hourly, but Ethan's absence was the real story. Jordan called me immediately. "We need to find Ethan before he liquidates everything and disappears. Any idea where he'd run?" I thought about the man who'd controlled my life for 3 years. "He's arrogant. He won't just run. He'll want to secure his position first. Check the church. He probably went back for something." I was right, but not in the way I expected. Marcus and I arrived at the church to find Ethan's BMW in the parking lot and the building surrounded by congregation members. Inside, Ethan had barricaded himself in the sanctuary, broadcasting live on the church's social media channels. "My fellow believers," he announced to his phone camera, "I come to you as a victim of a conspiracy. My stepsister, consumed by jealousy and mental illness, has fabricated evidence against our family, but I have proof of her deception." He held up a stack of documents, even from a distance. I recognized them. Medical records, therapy notes from after Mom's death, prescribed anxiety medications, all real, all private, all stolen from my father's home files. "A history of mental instability," Ethan continued. "Hallucinations, paranoid delusions. Is this who you believe over your spiritual leaders?" The crowd was murmuring, some nodding along. Others looked skeptical, but Ethan's performance was compelling. He'd learned from the best. Jordan appeared beside me with 2 federal agents. "We need to get in there before this escalates." "Let me talk to him," I said. "He's destroying my reputation on live stream. I have a right to respond." "Absolutely not," the lead agent said. But I was already walking toward the church entrance. The crowd parted, some with pity, others with suspicion. Inside, Ethan stood at the pulpit where his father had preached just days before. "There she is," he announced, turning his phone toward me. "Come to make more false accusations, Maddie." "I came to give you one chance to surrender with dignity," I said, walking down the aisle. "The FBI has everything. Ethan, your insurance folder, the offshore accounts, all of it." His face twitched, but he maintained his performance. "More lies from a troubled woman." "Including the email where you discussed framing your father if things went bad." I pulled out my phone, showing the screen to his camera. Would you like me to read it to your followers? The part where you call him a useful fool who built the ladder you're climbing? The live stream comments exploded. Congregation members in the room gasped. That's fabricated, Ethan said, but his voice cracked. Then you won't mind if I share the audio recording of you and William discussing having me institutionalized? The one where you laugh about Dr. Brennan owing you favors? I hit play. Their voices filled the sanctuary. Clear and damning. The crowd's murmur turned to outrage. Ethan's mask finally slipped. You destroyed everything. Our family, our ministry, our work for God. You destroyed it yourself, I said. Every stolen donation, every lie from that pulpit, every family you crushed for asking questions. You turned God's house into a den of thieves. He lunged at me then, rage overtaking calculation, but the FBI agents were ready, rushing in to restrain him as he screamed about betrayal and persecution. The phone fell, still streaming, capturing him being dragged away as he cursed my name. The congregation stood in stunned silence. Some cried, others prayed. Mrs. Rodriguez approached me with tears in her eyes. I'm sorry we didn't listen sooner, she said. The important thing is that you're listening now, I replied. Later, as Ethan was processed at the federal courthouse, Jordan showed me something interesting from his apartment search. We found 3 phones in a hidden safe, she said. Want to guess whose information was on them? Other church members he was monitoring? Exactly. 15 different people, all tracked, recorded, their private information stored. Your paranoia wasn't paranoia, it was pattern recognition. The local news ran the story for weeks. Deacon's downfall. How one woman exposed church corruption. But I didn't care about the headlines. I cared that the Haiti orphanage would finally receive their funds, that the families who'd been silenced could speak freely, and that William and Ethan would face justice. Ethan was charged with 12 federal counts, including wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. His trial would be a sensation. But first, there was one more card to play. The emergency congregation meeting was called for Sunday evening. 2 weeks after the arrests, William had been released on bail and, incredibly, planned to address his flock. The church board, what remained of it, felt the congregation deserved to hear from their pastor. I arrived early with Jordan and a small team of federal investigators. We had something special planned. William's last sermon would indeed be memorable, just not in the way he intended. The sanctuary filled to capacity. Media crews set up in the back, their cameras ready to capture what everyone expected would be either an apology or a defiant defense. William entered through his usual side door, Joanna at his side, both dressed in their finest clothes as if this were any other Sunday. My beloved congregation, William began, his voice still commanding despite everything. I stand before you as Paul stood before the Romans, accused, persecuted, but unbroken in faith. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. He was really going to play the martyr. The government seeks to destroy our ministry because we've grown too powerful, too influential in spreading God's word. They send troubled souls like Madeline to tear down what we've built. Actually, I stood up, my voice carrying clearly. I'd like to present something to the congregation. William's face darkened. You have no right to speak in this house. I have every right. I walked to the front, Jordan beside me. As a member of this congregation, and as someone with evidence that needs to be shared. I pulled out a laptop and connected it to the church's projection system, the same one used for worship lyrics. These are the real financial records of Millhaven Baptist Church, obtained through federal warrant. The first slide appeared. 2 sets of books, side by side. On the left, what you were told. On the right, what actually happened to your money. Gasps echoed through the sanctuary. The Haiti Orphanage Fund showed $800,000 collected, but only $50,000 sent. The building fund had raised $2.3 million, but $1.8 million had been diverted to administrative costs, which traced directly to the Prosperity Foundation. Lies, William shouted. Fabrications. Then explain this. I clicked to the next slide. A photo from the church's own security system. showing William and Ethan loading cash into briefcases at 2 a.m. Time-stamped 3 days after the Christmas offering, the one where you raised $300,000 for the homeless shelter that only received $40,000. Congregation members stood up, some shouting, others crying. Deacon James demanded William step down immediately. But I wasn't finished. "There's more," I announced, clicking to an audio file. "This is William Harrow, 3 months ago, in his own words." His voice filled the sanctuary. "These sheep will believe anything if you wrap it in scripture. Tell them God wants them to give, and they empty their wallets. It's almost too easy." The recording continued. "Madeline's getting too curious. We might need to handle her like we handled the Thompsons. Remember how quickly they left town after asking about the audit?" Joanna tried to leave, but federal agents blocked the exits. This was now an active crime scene. "You want to know the worst part?" I addressed the congregation directly. "Check your own credit reports, because if you ever filled out a prayer request card with your personal information, there's a chance it was used for more than prayers." Marcus stepped forward with a stack of papers. 17 cases of identity theft traced back to information gathered through church ministry needs forms, credit cards, loans, even mortgages taken out in your names. The sanctuary erupted. William tried to speak, but his microphone had been cut. He stood there, mouth moving soundlessly, as his empire collapsed around him. Jordan took the microphone. "The FBI is setting up a station in the fellowship hall. If you believe you've been a victim of fraud or identity theft through this church, please see us immediately." Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. A man in the back stood up. CEO Robert Henley of Titan Energy Corp., one of the church's biggest donors. "Pastor Harrow," he said loudly, "you assured me my special donations were going to legitimate missionary work in South America. Are you telling me the $2 million my company contributed was stolen?" William's face went white. Titan Energy's lawyers would destroy him, and he knew it. "Furthermore," Henley continued, "I'm announcing that Titan Energy will be pursuing full legal action and will be funding an independent audit of every church transaction for the past decade." "This is persecution," William finally managed to shout without the microphone. "You're all being deceived by a vindictive woman and a godless government." But nobody was listening anymore. They were lining up at the FBI table, sharing stories, providing evidence. The collection of victims grew by the minute. I found myself standing at the altar where I'd once sung in the choir, watching the Exodus. Mrs. Rodriguez stood beside me. "You saved us," she said softly. "No," I replied, watching William being escorted out by federal agents as news cameras captured every moment. "The truth saved you. I just helped it come to light." The federal courthouse in downtown Millhaven had never seen crowds like this. 6 months after that explosive Sunday night, the joint trial of William Harrow and Ethan Harrow had become the most watched case in the state. I sat in the witness box for 3 straight days, methodically presenting evidence that painted a picture of systematic fraud spanning half a decade. "The defendants stole more than money," the federal prosecutor concluded in her closing argument. "They stole trust, faith, and hope from an entire community." The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Ethan received 12 years in federal prison, no possibility of early release. The judge called his betrayal of the congregation particularly heinous, given his position as their spiritual guide. His designer suits and Rolex would be replaced with federal prison uniforms. William got 8 years, though his age meant he'd likely serve 6. As they led him away, he looked at me one last time. There was no remorse in his eyes, only rage at being caught. Joanna escaped criminal charges but faced civil lawsuits that would drain whatever assets the federal government didn't seize. She left Millhaven within a month, destination unknown. The aftermath brought unexpected healing. Titan Energy, true to Henley's word, funded a complete forensic audit going back 10 years. They recovered $3.2 million, which was returned to victims and legitimate charities. The Haiti orphanage finally received their full donations, sending a video of children in new school uniforms that made the entire congregation cry. The church itself survived. Surprisingly, the remaining honest board members elected Mrs. Rodriguez as interim director, the first woman to hold the position. She sold William's mansion-like parsonage and used the funds to establish a food bank. The golden fixtures and expensive decorations were auctioned off, replaced with simple, honest furnishings. God doesn't need gold plating, she told me. He needs genuine hearts. My father, who had remained silent throughout the ordeal, finally called me 3 months after the trial. "I should have protected you," he said, voice broken. "I was so lost after your mother died. I let them convince me you were the problem. Can you forgive me?" Forgiveness came slowly, but it came. We started with coffee once a month, rebuilding what William had tried to destroy. Marcus and I left Millhaven eventually. The town held too many painful memories despite the vindication. Jordan Blake helped me get a position with the Federal Trade Commission's Nonprofit Fraud Division. Now I help investigate charities nationwide, making sure other congregations don't suffer what mine did. But first, there was one last thing to do. On a quiet Tuesday, I returned to the church one final time. The sanctuary looked different, humbler, more honest. I walked to the altar where William had stood so proudly, where Ethan had proclaimed his false righteousness, where I'd been slapped for telling the truth. I placed a single photo there, the Haitian children in their new uniforms, smiling and holding a sign that read, "Thank you, Millhaven Baptist Church." "This is what it was always supposed to be about," I said to the empty room. Behind me, someone cleared their throat. Deacon James stood in the doorway, now serving as the church's head elder. "Maddie," he said, "I wanted to apologize. We should have listened. We should have seen." "Sometimes it takes darkness to appreciate the light," I replied. "Will you ever come back?" he asked. I looked around the sanctuary, at the cross that had witnessed so much corruption and, finally, justice. "No," I said honestly, "but I'm glad it can be a real church again. That's all I ever wanted." As I walked out, I passed the new mission board displaying photos from the Haiti orphanage, the local homeless shelter, the food bank, real charity, real impact, real faith. The collection box beside it was clear glass. No more secrets, no more hidden dealings. 6 months later, I received a letter from federal prison, Ethan's handwriting, but not his usual arrogance. "Maddie, I won't ask for forgiveness. We both know I don't deserve it. But you should know the FBI found more victims because of your courage. 15 other churches were running similar schemes, all connected to people we trained. Your actions stopped a network, not just us. I hope that brings you peace." I burned the letter. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Today, I live a quiet life in Denver with Marcus, who's rebuilding his software company. We found a small church that feeds the hungry every Saturday, and whose pastor drives a 10-year-old Honda. Their books are open to anyone who asks. Sometimes I Google Millhaven Baptist Church. They're thriving under honest leadership, their reputation slowly healing. The sanctuary where I was struck is now a place of genuine worship again. Justice doesn't always come wrapped in dramatic moments. Sometimes it arrives through patient documentation, careful investigation, and the courage to speak truth when everyone wants you silent. My stepfather and stepbrother learned that the hard way. And that cross they stood under while committing their crimes? It's still there, a reminder that truth, like faith, endures long after the liars have fallen. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment and let me know what city or country you're in so we can connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts below. What would you have done in my situation? Your comments mean everything, and I read every single one.